one-third death was only because of the infectious diseases. Pediatric death under 5 was one-third of all deaths. But now it has been dropped to only 2% after this century. And these changes are basically, we cannot tell it is only because of medicines. If you see the decrease of particularly tuberculosis or pneumonia, well before this vaccines developed for TB, there was a decline, because we know biology is not always giving medicine. Biology also, like we develop, we evolve, we try to adapt. So accordingly, they also try to adapt. So there is always trade-off between adaptation and between human and also microbes. When we have developed these antibiotics, so we thought we will be able to take this out. The microbes will be no more for us. But they tried to evolve by them, but they take some time. So after 20 to 30 years, now you are finding a antibiotic resistant microbes. And the man who, William Osler, who was once told that the captain of men of death is pneumonia. He himself was killed or died because of pneumonia. So there are still now we are finding same pneumonia. Now you know this COVID-19 itself, one of the major factor is pneumonia. Death of cause of one of the pathognomic feature is pneumonia. So still it is continuing in that way. So coming to the domains of public health, it is not always medicine. Public health has many domains. It has environmental part, social part, many things. But medicine is one of the part of public health. So medicine can be used to improve the health or for a protection. That means protective, also curative. So homeopathy is a system of medicine has been used in both domains, like in treatment also and protection also, and particularly prophylactic also. But we will be discussing particularly applicability of homeopathic medicine here, because public health is a very big domain. It encompasses almost every aspect of a life. It starts from mental health, your micro environment, macro environment, and social, spiritual, many aspects it covers. So we will be dealing only how homeopathy has been playing a role in public health, particularly related to that domain falls into use of medication. You can see these recent photographs of how during a epidemic this happened. This is below is a dengue epidemic during in a hospital, and above is time of this COVID time. So if you will go to the history, the number of deaths, of course, everybody will be going to die one day. It is somebody taken part has to die. But the death due to infectious disease always high. You see the maximum death which has been occurred till date is that it is Spanish flu. This is around 5 crore population died in, that is one-third population of at that time. World population has died because of Spanish flu. Then comes into around HIV, and then some of that in between Asian flu, Russian flu. Then all these things are there. But the highest death was around Spanish flu, which is because of infectious diseases. And all these are infectious disease causes. And it is expected that some of the, in future also, the death and this will be due to some of the infectious disease which is more dreaded than this also maybe, it is flu. Now we have seen that bird flu as that just recently it was there. Now also there is a advisory against bird flu because that is also a flu. So it is expected that someday if this flu virus, particularly H1N1, your swine flu, also H1N1, if there are, because they mutate very fast, that every year you are finding a new vaccine for H1N1, that is flu virus. That means any changes in their mutation which may increase their virulence and infectivity may create a havoc throughout, because at that time in 1918 the population was less, the international travel is less. Now the global health, now we are telling it is a global health. The travel, the way the population transition from one part of world to other is very fast. So the automatical transmission will be very fast, and automatically the problem will be a bigger. Similarly, that is that of death due to this part also, again this is differently presented. And the financial burden, you know that everybody now, I think, because earlier during 2009 more are not having this internet connections in their mobile, so now everybody knows India has also contracted, financial GDP has been contracted, and all measure all the financial power, that GDP has been contracted, including China also, but though they are started reviving. So automatically everything, this type of situation when there is infectious disease, though we tell we have controlled some part, but once it comes, it creates a havoc, and it spreads fast, it kills, and it that is leading to the financial burden, and many people go to the below the line of poverty. Homeopathy has started its journey as a prophylactic or as a in epidemic, starts with belladonna, because I know we have from the chronic disease that Hahnemann's lesser rating, that article I have not given, because this is from some of the journals, mainstream journal of that time, like 1844. They have also advised to use belladonna as a prophylactic. And basically, which was the Hopland, Hopland journal, this was published in 1829, but again it was republished looking back. That's why it is mentioned in the Lancet in around 1901. In that, Hopland has given that this use of belladonna prevented infection 3 ways. Now also we are telling same that it is prevented. Even if it is unable to prevent, the severity was less, but in few instances this may not have acted. But that is very fewer times. And during that time, after this Hopland's comments, Prussian government has issued a public advisory, official decree, ordering that the generals, that population should use belladonna as a prophylactic in all instances when scarlet fever prevails as an epidemic. That means now we are not doing first time. It was started since Hahnemann's time around 1829, during lifetime of Hahnemann. That government has also adopted this type of public advisory. The next comes where we have got bigger name, that is Spanish flu during 1918. Around the death rate was, the data was collected subsequently. Means there was no study at that time that how to take the study and get a data, because it has been written that some of the history of medicine books, that people, those who are very well during the morning when they are going out telling good morning, they are no more at the to tell good night. So fast progressing and mortality. So it has decreased the American age by 10 years, average age. 1/3 population of world has been died. 1.5 crore population of Indian died. So that's what is the problem. And the most common remedy, I told that Gelsemium, Bryonia, and Eupatria. I tried to find out about this particular Spanish flu and what happened during that time, of particularly related to homeopathy. I've gone through some of the papers where it was published. You can see the drugs where it has been used. Most is, I have given it alphabetically somewhat, but most is Bryonia, Gelsemium, and other medicine. These are frequently used, given in different publications from different countries. You can see this arsenic was from arsenic, German, France, Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, UK, USA. Similarly, phosphorus, Bryonia, Gelsemium, and Eupatrum from France, Switzerland, Spain, Sweden, and USA. Influenza from Switzerland, USA. And some of the places there are different type of advisory. Like in case of Netherlands, they have given as a our some of the nutricals like alfalfa, Avena sativa as a nutricals to have a better health, so that they can able to prevent. And some other, there are some fewer medicines also given advisory differently. But mostly these are the common drugs which has been applied for influenza for treatment and this. But when it comes to India, I should read out this statement from India, because mostly we are very poor in documentation. You see, this is a conversation between one of the Dr. Ghosh from somewhere from Calcutta with some of the from UK. There is mentions, nevertheless, he stated, we have made many remarkable cures. Thus, in India, homeopaths we again see claimed success with their treatment of pandemic influenza, though proof of this was not found. That is the misery of our, particularly from India, though at the time homeopathy was there. And we can see the publication. This is a publication of that time during just after in 1918 or around 20. They have collected the symptoms from all the practitioners. And they combined the symptom, and Dr. Stern was given the workup to compile and brought out with a treatment of influenza booklet. That is not happening now because it is expected at that time Americans are at the highest level of that the practice was high and they have more colleges. Similarly to India at present, because now India can be comparable to of American practice of homeopathy during 1800. That means 1850, 70 up to 1910 when this they have brought out a decree of stopping this homeopathic practice. But we are not. This is not happening with this, and because many of our stalwarts, many good practitioners, they have very good clinical success, but ultimately it goes off with them, and we do not find such type of compilations. Then 1957, there is no such type of publication, but there is some experience has been shared where they have told these drugs has been found to be effective, and they prepared an influenza Asia, that is from at that time strain, and there are some more. Just I am going through some of these typhus fever, allopathic treatment, homeopathy. But let me put into record here: this allopathic treatment was not of today's allopathic treatment. Whenever we put an argument, we should not put the argument that allopathic treatment means today's. Today we have antibiotics, we have antivirals, we have the management has improved. You know that with the mechanical ventilation, up to mechanical ventilation, we can keep the patients. So that was not available at that time. There is no antibiotics, there is no antivirals, only that more of heroic medicines that given. Sometimes it has been told that the death of allopathic treatment was because of these heroic medicines. Similarly, of that time, homeopathy was better, but the homeopathy treatment has not changed very much from that time to this time. So we expect this type of result also now. But allopathic medicine system has been changed a lot. They have a lot of therapeutic inventories. So definitely they will have a lesser death rate, but comparable to homeopathy. Homeopathy, at least still the data shows it is far better than present time also. 2% it is in cholera time. So now also it is good. There are some of the reviews has been also published on that historical evidence where they have ultimately they have concluded that probably homeopathy remedies played an active role in successful treatment of these cholera cases, and though there are some of the criticism. Similarly, in yellow fever, smallpox, and diphtheria, and meningitis also. But there is again a revival. Though in India we have used many times, because I was at that time not much aware. Dr. Vikupta sir has told that during that bubonic plague, they have declared as phosphorus here for plague. And then in India during dengue, for some dengue medicine also developed. But much up to that, publications are very lacking. Though it has been from government, it was declared some of the this. But this has after this article, particularly this leptospirosis from Cuba, again there was a revival of using homeopathic medicine. Though it was used somewhat, but in a scientific community there is again discussion to use homeopathic medicine as a large scale to for prophylactic. This was published in around 2010. In 2007, they have used this nosode from Leptospira, and one of the biggest population, around 23 lakh population, has been studied here. You can see this type of graph. It says a predictive model graph where you can find here. Here is the data. Up to this data was available. Then they tried to predict if this trend goes like this. So what is the possibility when they will? This is studied up to 45th week, and they followed the trend along with the environmental changes and what is the other factors available. So it was predicted the graph will go like this. So what happened at this point of around 45th week of that year of 2007, they have given the medicine. So you can see the graph was going like this up to this height, like this. But it has gone down, and when it is gone down below the historic mean. Historic mean is a data where it shows over a period of 4, 5, 6, 7 years, you see what is the minimum level of cases you find. And even in 2008, because of that effect, you see that blue color, it goes down the around historic mean, it has continued. So this data of so huge population of a public health burden of Cuban community has shown a big trend, and this has been highly discussed among homeopaths also. But though there are some of the criticism from, because it is always as usual, because and no research can be very perfect. Every research have some type of limitation, so automatically there will be some type of criticism. Similarly, what happened during that time, there are some area where they have not given medicine. You can see the predictive, it shows it will go up high. And actually what happened after from that week, you can see this graph black, this has gone high, similar pattern. And in 2008 also, the historic mean has shifted. You can see the historic mean of that ash color has gone shifted to up like this. So that means once the homeopathic medicine has been given to the population, there is a significant decrease of the incidence of the leptospira. Even after this type of study and for that 1918 that data, still there remains criticism. Why? Because in 1918 what happened? The data, because of the self-reporting of the doctors, they have just reported that I have treated these many cases and out of that this many deaths are there. So automatically a doctor, when he reports, there are some of the biasness there. And second thing what happened, those who come for a clinic for treatment, usually they have a mild cases or mild moderate cases. Severe cases, basically they prefer to go to the hospitals. So automatically the death rate among the mild or moderate cases will be less compared to the hospital case. But what happened? We have compared the death rate of individual doctors to the death rate of hospitals. So that is not a possible way of comparing as per standard scientific methods. So that was one of the lacking. So we have to accept it. Similarly, in what happened 2010 of that leptospirosis study, still there is some of the criticism remained there. There was no control group, though it was not control group, was of same area. There may be changes in environmental factor because leptospira depends on the cyclones, raining, cyclone, waterlogging, all these things. So there may be difference in that. Then intervention, what type of intervention, because health behavior differs from zone to zone, person to person, family wise. So that was also not recorded, and possibility of regression to the mean. So along with that, we have only one or two book. Another book is there, but the primary book is that from Dorothy Shefford on epidemics. You will find there is no disease which is presently it is prevailing. Some of the new diseases, some of still there, like we have influenza, measles, and whooping cough, all this there. But new diseases are not there. Like I will tell about HIV, dengue, chikungunya, Ebola. These are not mentioned in this. That means, as a profession, we have never tried to update ourselves. We need to update our literature so that the experience gained during this by our physicians and all these things should come up to the literature for the future generation. So that is another things which we as a profession should take. as a challenge. Next comes this person, one of the famous doctor. He is a U.S. Surgeon General. Once he told that around 1960 that after this antibiotics, he told that it is time to close the book on infectious diseases and declare the war against pestilence is won. But he proved to be wrong, and this was just within 10 to 20 years. Again, the antibiotic resistance has been started. In 1980, HIV has come to front, then SARS came, then Lassa virus, then swine flu. So many things come up, and now we are in the mid of a pandemic. Now there is no single year going without a outbreak of diseases in world, various part of world. The problem of another part is that we are being blamed by many of the. If you go to standard epidemiological textbooks, you will find India is one of the place where we are finding resistant variety of microbes. That means our environmental condition or use of antibiotics is leading to development of resistant strains, particularly antibiotic resistant strains. And now malaria. They are telling it is chloroquine. It is a wonderful drug. Then you have some other drugs, but now they have started a resistant variety that if you go to Tripura, they are 100% chloroquine resistant. So this is the thing. Once there may be chance that malaria, once it was killing many people, again it will start killing more people. So even you will go to the H1N1 influenza, now they are resistant to the Tamiflu. So it is time, but if you see compared to this homeopathy, you will not find drug resistance. We have arsenic since 200 years. We have arsenic now also. We have Rustux now also. But there are some of the questions coming regarding its quality and quality of medicine and all these things. So we will be discussing one by one of the major diseases. First, we will go to the dengue. But till that, we have seen the historical background where it has been used, how it has been used, what is the criticism. But in the meantime, what happened in 2015? Before that, also some of the research was going on. In 2015, there is a changed mandate by our scientific advisory board to undertake more research on this epidemic diseases which has capacity to have a epidemic outbreaks. So first is dengue. We know that dengue, India is one of the worst affected country from dengue as a tropical country, and it is a vector-borne disease. So we every time Delhi, every year we find around July to October we find this type of dengue outbreaks, and you can see from this data how much economic burden this is. Only alone in 2016, the burden was 5%. Somebody has that voice. Hello. Some noise is coming. Somebody talking. Hello.
Dr. V.K. Chauhan, sir, you are sorry, unmuted. Please mute yourself.
Yes,
please continue.
Only during 2016 alone, the burden of dengue was 5.71 billion in US dollars. It is India cost I am talking. It is not world. And around seroprevalence all over India. That means for 50% of population of India are affected with dengue infection. And this is growing every year, and this is one of the first growing disease during last 5 to 6 decades. This has been increased by more than 400 to 500 fold increase in that. And in India, it is a regular problem. It starts with, from around May, June at Kerala, and it reaches around October, it becomes peak in Delhi. In 2015, there was, why I'm showing this data, because 2015 there was a severe outbreak among all. You can see around 97,740 cases are there. But if you will see this data, it is not true, because 80% of disease are asymptomatic, and mostly they do not come to the hospital because of mild fevers. if you will compare that, the basic statistics which has been calculated, if one person has been come to hospital, around 180 patients are there in the community who has not attended hospital because of their mildness of illness. So if you multiply this factor with 180, so I feel around more than 50% Delhi was affected at that time. Similarly, at Delhi, no, this is Delhi, this is 15,000. 15,000 into multiplied by 180 factor. So more than 50% has been affected at that time. During that time, at Edgar Hospital, the MS gave a permission to Dr. Vishal Chadda. He was a medical officer there. He got a permission that we can give homeopathy medicine to the dengue patients. So he asked our DG sir at that time, Dr. Manchanda, to help and send some of the manpower. So we have been deputed for that, to undertake that. So though it was not planned research, because within today evening they told us to go there and tomorrow morning we have to see. So it could not be planned as a proper clinical trial, but we collected data in two ways. That those who agreed to take homeopathy medicine, we have given homeopathy. Those who didn't agree, we have just kept their data as a comparator. So around we have taken data of 283 patients. Out of that, 183 has received homeopathy along with usual care. Usual care means that whatever medicine they give, most of they are giving, there is no medicine antiviral. So they used to give antipyretics, antiemetics, that too they used to give, and fluid replacement if required, platelet. And most often what we have found in government hospital, they are single, like from somebody worker from Bihar, he has no known relative here, nobody to look after that. So they could not get a platelet, because for platelet we need a fresh blood. Fresh blood need to be immediately donated, and platelet had to be segregated and transfused. Most often they don't get, and they have to sit, lie on the bed for together for more than 10 to 12 days or more than that. Once we have entered there, we try to see what medicine is coming, then this, that we used to give on reportation then. But accidentally, for two cases, we have given Crotalus horrides due to some of the, because Crotalus horrides was used for yellow fever in around 1846 in USA. And Crotalus yellow fever has a similar type of pathogenesis of dengue. In dengue hemorrhagic fever, when there will be low breakdown of blood vessels, bleeding, all these things. So on that basis, we have tried that, and we got an astonishing result on that. Within one day, they have these two persons who has around 10,000 platelet count. They rise around by 48,000 and 50. The next day, it become 50,000 around. So at that time, the conventional doctor also, they told no, it is not possible. Then there was some type of confrontation, and the Dr. Vishal, he was somewhat he's audacious, and he told no, it is happening. So they told, okay, we will see some patient, we will select, you give medicine, and tomorrow we will do a joint follow-up. That means combine. They will come and we will go. Both will do a follow-up. Then we have given, they have selected 4 patients. One is 4,000, one is 10,000, one boy who has a severe abdomen pain, unable to sit, just lying down. So they have given 4 patients. And we have given medicine, and next day morning we went early, because we have also, because if we are not getting any results, so they may stop it. So we have find only 1 patient in that ward, and 3 patients who are not there. So either they have been worsened or they have got better. So ultimately we track them down, and they are in the stable ward. So the boy, we asked, he got relief of symptom within 2 hours. So he was fine. Then one 10,000 case which has a severe headache, he stable and he was in stable ward. Only 1 patient with 10,000 who was only remained at the casualty. So we went to them, and they told, no, now I am busy, we will come later. Again, 1 hour after we went to them, let us go to do a follow-up. He only told that, no, your medicine is working, so you continue. Then we have seen so many cases, and the ward which was full of patients, at least two persons are lying in same bed, and between 2 beds another charpai was there. So that became empty. Even the hospital doctors, they stopped discharging the patients even after 2 lakh of platelet count, because at that time it was a political issue. So if the hospital remained vacant, so that means they are discharging early. When before we entered there, they are discharging at 70,000 platelet count. If somebody has in a trend of rising platelet count reaches 70,000, so used to discharge. But after this trend has happened and people have started going, I mean, improving within 1 or 2 days, they become normal platelet count. Within 3 days, around 60% people, they become more than 1 lakh platelet count within 3 days of treatment. So you can see this graph, it is a difference between first day to 0 day, means first day platelet count after taking medicine minus 0 day platelet at baseline when medicine was not given. Within 1 day of treatment, you see 90,000 platelet was increased at that time. And similarly, within 2 days treatment, it is 41,000. That means if somebody has 2,000 or 3,000 of platelet and you give homeopathy along with usual care, he don't need any platelet transfusion within 1 day. So that type of burden of platelet has been decreased, and they become symptom free and they have early recovery and discharge. And some of the unusual cases, like some cases, those who are in pregnant lady, those who are during menstrual cycle, they don't, pregnant lady, they cannot give this type of medicine, antipyretic through so frequent. We have seen 3 to 4 cases. They themselves told us, no, you do something, we are unable to do here anything. And similarly, this doctors of that hospital, they are also become, first they are opposing us. Gradually when they have seen, they brought out their relatives first. And the nursing staff, they become very cooperative. Once any dengue patient comes, they used to call us immediately. When early part where they are registering to give even the case records to us. Similarly, we have, that was treatment for dengue. And in 2016, we have taken, since 2016, we are continuing some of the epidemiological studies with homeopathic intervention in some of the urban slums like Mayapuri, Jakhira, Piragadi, and Piragadi phase 2. You can see why I have given this data, because in 2016, there is a huge outbreak of this chikungunya and dengue. You can see these are reported in the around 30% population are of Mayapuri slums are down with fever. Even this was predicted as one of the economic impact, industrial economic impact on because of this type of fever, dengue and chikungunya. So in that time, this is on the papers we are under the submission. But the main result is that we have given homeopathic medicine, that our medicine Eupatrum purpuratum to 12,000 population, and 3,000 we have just collected their data. You can see the fever, because most of the people, they don't go for testing at that time. So we have treated that anybody who has a fever, who has told that I have 1 day fever or 2 day fever, whatever it may be. So it is only 5.3% people are affected with fever during that 4 months time. And here you see those are control group, it is 34%. And those who are tested for dengue, because this will not give a clear data, because all are not tested. Even if those who are tested, it is 2% and 3.9%. And for chikungunya, it is, because at that time chikungunya's outbreak was more. So 5.8% are chikungunya and 27% are chikungunya positive for in control group. You can see this, because this graph gives a better idea. You can see how distance this is. It is 4% with fever, and here it is only 0, and then it starts. It never reached to 1% also. It is maximum is here 1.5. No, 8.7%. They have not reached to 1%. That means if we calculate the in terms of statistical calculation, the protection rate is around 90%. Now you are seeing the vaccine rate. Now it is coming in media. So this vaccine has 90% protection. There is a calculation of statistical calculation. So that comes around 90%. And interesting is that if you take a vaccine also, you need at least 1 month time period to develop your antibody. But you see, medicine was given here only every week. That means they have to take medicine first dose here, second, third, up to 10 doses. Up to 10 doses, they have been given medicine here. And the impact is immediate. That you will not find with any of the vaccines. They need to have minimum dosage and minimum period to develop that protective effect. But this is not possible in case of epidemics, because you see, because this pandemic has taken 1 year, so we could vaccinate it. But epidemics comes, it stays only for 4 to 5 months. We cannot able to vaccinate all the peoples with all the peoples of India or in Delhi also. and first to manufacture such a huge number of doses, then to vaccinate, and to reach to the population along with a trained people, then to vaccinate them. So it is not so easy. So, but you can see with homeopathic intervention that is immediate. Within 7 days, you are finding such a difference. Similarly, if we'll come to that, we will discuss some part of their part also. I have knowingly put in this. There is a vaccine, it is not dengue vaccine. It was some part of time around 2 years before there is a discussion in India to give permission to dengue vaccine as a for vaccination in India. But in the same time, it has happened in 2019. The person who has discovered this dengue vaccine, he was a scientist at Philippines. But gradually, when they have what they did, after some time, he become the health secretary there. So he did a public vaccination program in Philippines. What happened within 2 years in Philippines, the admission of hemorrhagic fever in children increased. Increased means there is a trend, what I was telling, historical trend. So there is a higher rate of admission of hemorrhagic fever, dengue hemorrhagic fever in children. So then by this time the government was changed. So the next government put an inquiry and find out that there is a problem in the way they have developed all this program and this. So now everybody is silent about dengue vaccine in India at least. Subsequent to that, some people they say that no, once you have dengue, you will not have it from that strain. But the problem is that dengue also changes its, though it is very slow in comparison to influenza, but there is also a genotypic variations lineage of dengue virus. That's why we are seeing repeated outbreaks of dengue in. This is study from your Karnataka and from Tamil Nadu. So there is a changes in that dengue virus. That's why they are suffering from repeated attacks of every year. They are finding some of the infections. Another problem is that there is dengue, there is no antiviral. The treatment is give antipyretic, give antiemetic, and give blood that transfusion, fluid replacement, and transfusion platelet. But the paracetamol itself is a hepatotoxic. So particularly in case of dengue, liver already affected, and addition of paracetamol has created another problem of severe affection. You see, this is a paper from Lancet alone only. That it is not in, though it is given, but it creates risk to the life of that dengue patient than those who are not received paracetamol. So there is, now the question is there is no antiviral, there is no antipyretics are not good indicated. So only fluid replacement and transfusion. So remain is homeopathy. So that means homeopathy can be an alternative to this type of problems when there is a such huge public burden of health problems. So that's what I have concluded here, that homeopathy alone can be not alone as a standard care, along with standard care. Standard care means fluid replacement, all these things. So 60% of patient can reach, I mean, they become risk free, means they reach 1 lakh platelet count within 3 days. So overall, this is very economic. First of all, second, it has become effective. So what more we want? But still, this has not been adopted in a treatment protocol of any of the state government. I have asked one of the questions. Sometimes some director of public health of UP government, I have asked this question regarding JE, because he was in the stage, so he just avoided it. He could not tell you how to include this. Once you have evidence, how this can be included to the treatment protocol of that disease in any hospital. So he just avoided, told now it is center has to decide it, because we have also written to from there when our DG sir was there, Dr. Manchanda, I was along with him to the DGHS, Director General Health Services at that time. They written to the do another trial at Safdarjung. Safdarjung, they told no, you do yourself, do a trial. We will provide the building and the space. So it is not possible to create an infrastructure space, then you have to give medicine. So that is the problem at present we are facing. Similarly, in chikungunya, it was given as biennial prophylactic in 2007. There was around 10% population are affected with chikungunya at that time. So it was effective in terms of statistics. And keeping all this data, all these things, also we are giving advisory And after this Ministry of Ayush has been created, they are also encouraging to give this type of advisory based on this. And sometimes back there was questions on in the parliament also how you are giving advisory. So because we have generated this data, you have seen, so we have just provided the data. So there was no more objection. Though there was objection for other system, they stopped giving any advisory for dengue, but we have not stopped because of this data available with us. Then comes in another disease which can become havoc, that is most dreaded disease. Though we are telling it is COVID-19, but most fearful disease is influenza, because WHO makes a systematic surveillance of influenza. They maintain systematic data of influenza. They know anything goes wrong, so it can create a havoc in throughout the world. That's why throughout the season, throughout the globe, and throughout the year, they maintain a data of influenza outbreak around the globe, and they also test of any changes into this virus. And if there is changes, they immediately transfer this virus to develop an immediate vaccine. So every year you will be finding a new vaccine for influenza with new strains. But mostly what happens, whenever they do this type of surveillance, they do influenza-like illness, because influenza is a respirable disease, droplet infections, and that's why you need a BSL-3 facility to test it. So what happens when there will be a cluster of infection where it is just like clinically we tell it is an influenza-like illness, when there is fever and cough during last 10 days, so we take it as a influenza-like illness. And preferably when there is a this type of illness in a season when there is influenza virus is circulating, so we take around 40% of these will be positive for influenza. In 2009 during swine flu, also there was a study from our council where it was tested that this is a treatment study, and it is found that homeopathy in both potency they are effective against a placebo group, and the medicine burden, like these are very mild cases, those are coming for OPD of our CCRH the institute OPDs. That means these are mild cases, but we could not get any chance to treat these type of serious cases, or those are hospitalized cases. We didn't get any type of chance, because last time when there was an outbreak in Safdarjung, they didn't allow us actually. During same time also, this is the data which has been collected from India. It was planned that this data, you can see there are some international authors, but because they developed protocol and analyzed data, they are the author. But all the data are from India. It was planned from all the countries, around 7 countries from the globe, around the globe. But no country could provide data. Around only India could have that type of data because of our huge network of practitioners. Around it is data from 8 or 9 states. It is not only CCRH, from CCRH, some other practitioners also participated in this type of data collection study. And arsenic was found to be most prescribed and successfully prescribed, where the patient got relief in 23%. This is the best, one of the best for COVID-19 giving arsenic as a genus epidemicus. Coming on that, after this 2015, when this epidemic cell was established, so another disease we have also considered along with dengue, also influenza-like illness, because we could not test it for influenza because we do not have that type of infrastructure with CCRH presently to handle this type of biological samples, that swabs, and to have BSL-3 facilities. So we try to have, at least we should have influenza-like illness, so that we can tell if influenza-like illness is prevented, so 40% influenza is prevented. That means it was a prospective course study in SEM, because we have taken this area as a study area. We have a network of around 60 health workers, those who are residing in that community, and we have some of the doctors with us, those who are working as study staff. There is a pyramid-like of structure. We have around 50 health workers, those who will be giving medicine to the population, to collect data in case of any fever. They have to report to the next level of doctors, those who are our senior research fellows or research associate, and they will get the data from the person who is infected or having fever, about the severity and duration of illness. This we are continuing since 2017-18. We take this from December till April. 17, 18, 18, 19 and 19, 20 has been continued. Because of COVID, we have continued this and still we are following them. We will be following them up to the next April. So this is a follow-up of 1 year. We have started this in January 2020 and now we are continuing up to April 2021. That I will share some of the data there. And this I have given because sometimes somebody will ask why influenza-like illness. This is from our Delhi data from Vallabhbhai Patel Chest Institute. When they have studied that, those who are coming with influenza-like illness, at least 35%, 84% are found to be positive for influenza A. That means out of that, 35% are influenza A positive. And this will increase once the transmission has more. Means in any season, this type of ILA cases increase, so automatically the percent will increase also. Major result is here that in medicine group, you can see that 3 categories we have given, though we are more concerned fever plus cough, but we have taken all. This is of data of 17, 18. At that time, the incidence of fever was less. So automatically overall it becomes less. It is a 33.7% overall any upper respiratory tract infection or febrile illness, and it is 6%, around 50% decrease. But once the season where we are finding more influenza-like cases, this data automatically increase. You see, same area, the incidence have increased. So automatically you see the difference. Here it is 17%, here is 32%. Only if you will come to this fever and cough, where it is, we tell it is influenza-like illness, it is 5.7%. Here it is 18%. So that means more the virus is more active and more transmission are there, your medicine effect automatically goes up, because definitely our medicine is not going to prevent all type of disease, because influenza-like illness has 7 type of diseases. So when there is influenza is more, you will find more results are more evident. That means 3 times more infection are noticed in control group. If you see here also, the graph, they never met. You see it is 1.4 within 1 week. 0 is here. We have given medicine started here. And within 1 week, the difference is this. And it continued. And automatically they become less once it reaches to around March or April. So it becomes automatically it goes down. Because the season goes, the virus transmission stops. So automatically that goes down. It is not because of medicine effect ceases. It is because of the season goes off here. And based on that, also during 2009, also arsenic was given at that time as a prophylactic, as a health advisory by PIB, by Government of India. Next comes another deadly disease, that is Japanese encephalitis. Now we tell it is acute encephalitis syndrome, because this is the death is not because of JE. It has around 16 bacterial, viral, protozoal causes are there, which is creating death. In particular, you can see this India, around 99% of India is covered under the risk of this JE. And we know every year from Gorakhpur, thousands of children they die. Now it is extended to Assam, it is extended to Bihar, and other part of that also in some 2 to 3 years in Odisha, also in Malkanagiri. This is one of the from stalwarts from our India, Belladonna calcareca tuberculum, Dr. Saxena, KG Saxena from IIHP. And this was taken one of the best module, success module, but it was never adopted by other states. That is another problem in India. One province they adopt and other province do not take this, though there is a result. That is same thing is also happening in case of COVID-19. And you can see this result here. They have started at around here 99. Here they have started. Gradually in Andhra Pradesh, this is data combined Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. There is no more. Now also there are accidental people are taking, but there is no more death, very minimum death or some of the few incidences are there. Based on that, before that it was done in by CCRH at Gorakhpur around 1991, and Belladonna was given. But this type of study, though it was given, they could not have this type of, but collected around 39,000 population data. But it is not always wise to have this type of claim, but gives a trend. This trend given that belladonna is quite effective. But subsequently, we got a permission from that BRT Medical College, that is Gorakhpur, where this most of the child they die there. In that they have a special ward for this type of AES ward, JE ward. You can see this is a standard definition. Maybe most of us know that 30% will die, 30% will recover with a sequelae, and 30% will recover without sequelae. If you see this death, let us see to the placebo. You see 30% they are dying. Here, death is below. This graph is 28.2. 30% they are dying. That means the trend is followed. Placebo group is keeping. Placebo group means that gives a natural way of disease prognosis, all these things, and it is giving the same thing. It is 28%, 2% are dying. And if you come to the here, it is just 13% they are dying. So that means 30 minus 13%, around 15% reduction in death. That is a big data, big result. But even if after getting this result, this paper is being published, this has been presented in many places, this has never been implemented. The study protocol has been, the protocol of treatment protocol has never been implemented in Gorakhpur itself. And this was data of huge data also. This is 600 patients has been studied over a period of 2 to 3 years. So ultimately this type of evidence though we have, but it never translated into this. And overall, if you'll see also this type of good recovery, it is 80%, it is not 30%. Here it is around 50%, it is 80%, 30% difference is there. And same thing what happened after this study, there was criticism how it is acting, all these things. So though we have taken some of the studies in collaboration in our virology laboratory at Calcutta. I have not kept those preclinical data of virology laboratory. So belladonna is giving irrespective of any strain, all these things. So it is giving a consistent result that belladonna has an antiviral activity against JE. This is from KGMU, and this paper, this journal is one of the leading journal. The impact is around 6. 6 is the impact factor for this. Though here we have never mentioned homeopathy word, but we have mentioned belladonna 200. Because what happened, once mentioning homeopathy, the journals are not publishing our article. That's why we have mentioned belladonna 200. And in the inside the paper, how it has been prepared, it is mentioned without mentioning homeopathy word, because we have repeatedly being rejected. Once we are putting word homeopathy, they are repeatedly rejecting our papers, and we are unable to break this chain to reach to a higher impact journal. And this is one of the highest impact journal, and it is recently published in last November. And it shows that belladonna is able to protect the neuroglial cells, and even if against this JE infection. So there are that may be the reason and for getting a more protected and recovery. And belladonna was, interestingly, here also there is one drug which is more than 40% patient who received is belladonna. So that means in public health, what happens, this type of situation, when there is an outbreak, you cannot have individualization, because you do not have that type of manpower to reach to the every family and give a individualized constitutional prescription. So you need to fall into type of a pathological simillimum where it can be prescribed irrespective of constitution, irrespective of all these things. Because maybe this was the situation when science was not evolved. We are unable to see inside the cell. We are just seeing the features. So it was good to see the symptoms. But after this revolution in biomedical instrumentation, engineering, so now we can able very good see inside the cell, what is happening inside the cell. So definitely medicine, any medicine which is given creates a pathology. It may not be, earlier it was not visible. Now we are able to see it. We are seeing recently there is a paper published in that Nature reports, scientific reports, which was earlier you may be knowing in Indian paper, which was retracted from Dr. Patel. Same journal now published another article from Dr. Bellavete with same homeopathic medicine Drosera, because we need to have that type of data so that we can publish this, and these scientists, and now it somewhat this ice is breaking that they are going to accept this type of study, all the things. Now recently coming COVID-19. Here I am sorry to tell that because of due to some of the administrative restriction, I will not able to share the result, but I will tell what is the activities going on, and overall some of the ILI activity I can say. So this has been declared as a pandemic in 2020 February, and we received one of the first case of in India in 30th January. But the proactiveness of our Ministry of Ayush and our Scientific Advisory Board under the chairmanship of Dr. V.K. Gupta, the medicine arsenic was declared as a genus epidemicus before in 29th. Earlier to the first case decrease has been detected in India, and that may be the reason we got a huge success of giving arsenic album around almost all population. More than 50% population at least received. At least in Gujarat, 50% population has received by given by government itself. So you can expect other the 50% remains. They may, some of them may have received from by themselves, maybe from NGOs, maybe some other healthcare providers. So even if you go to Kerala, that they have around some of the district, they have reached to up to 80% of population they received homeopathic medicine in Kerala. Some of the district, but all data are not available, so we cannot take. But sometimes we may try to get this type of data. And our colleges, 2000 around 200 colleges in they have distributed medicine to recorded around 70 lakh population has been distributed by themselves alone. So that means maybe this may be another reason that we have a less severe disease. Maybe the way we are expecting India will have a huge outbreak, and death may not be death, at least outbreak and cases, hospitalization of at least hospitalization of the cases. It has not happened in that way. Maybe this may be the reason, and along with all the other ICE systems, because this time there are other ICE system has seen lot of usage by the public. And subsequent that advisory recommendation of our scientific advisory board, Secretary Ayush has written this letter to all the state governments, and this has been now some people has challenged that why we are not permitted to give medicine in Supreme Court, and this letter has been upheld by the Supreme Court that whatever written in this letter to the state government had to be followed, and the where it was given that here it is not that prophylactic was given, here we have given treatment, add-on treatment also. Yeah, this letter has both prophylactic and add-on treatments. So based on that letter, and subsequently government of India or Minister of Ayush has allowed this time, this is first time in history that a gazette notification come out permitting the Ayush systems to undertake research. We never got permission in 2009 in swine flu. And in that we got permission to undertake research, and this is also a guideline which was also upheld by Supreme Court for providing homeopathy or Ayush system for treatment, particularly for homeopathy. This has been quoted in that judgment also you find. And here also we have contributed from CCRH also contributed in drafting these guidelines. You can see, just I have to show that the judgment, I have seen that, and that Supreme Court has ruled Ayush doctors can prescribe government approved medicines as immune booster, because immune booster what it is has been recently, because to tell cure you need a evidence, but to tell this has been we are treating, there is nothing need to with that. Some terminology immune boosting can be given, but cure what comes only when you have a systematic research data or clinical data, treated clinical control treatment trial data is available. So anyway, we got that time, this time the first time we got permission and undertook research also. But interesting is that out of throughout globe, when I was scanning that where the research are being taken, you can find only India with homeopathy. With India, this research are only there. And I have just aggregated what type of research were taken up in India. And most often you find there are two type of research, that treatment and prophylactic. Sometimes some of the other means they have done a survey that how many usage of homeopathy, how many % people are using homeopathy, all these things are given. But mostly these are equally divided, around 48% there are treatment trials and 45 are prophylactic studies. And Coming down to the design of study, you see, earlier you used to have case report, all these things. In Spanish flu, I have shown you those who are only self-reported. But here you find already systematic studies, and these studies are, I am talking about registered studies. These studies are registered at Clinical Trial Registry of India. So that means they are legally protected, and they are legal trials and ethical trials. Most of the trials are randomized control trial, that we are always criticized that we have less number of randomized control trials. Here it is highest number, 70% are randomized control trials and 31% are observation studies. And coming to treatment studies, and also similarly randomized trials are more, 80%. And most often there the number of drugs which are being studied are, this is totality is more in treatment, and arsenic album second. This I am given that maybe in same trial multiple drugs are used, like some has taken 3 drugs in treatment. So anyway, total it is in 6 trials. And prophylactic study, most studied prophylactic study drug is arsenic album, and some Arbrania, and some new drugs, and coronavirus also, Camphora, all these things has been taken up. CCRH has undertaken some of the, because this is one of the mandate, it is the job of CCRH to take this in situation. We have taken 7 studies, but I have given here an example of some of the studies which do not need a registration. We have first study is that multi-center trial of 32,000 population of 7 cities around the different parts of India, and this has been concluded, and result has been analyzed, and it has been submitted to the Data Safety Monitoring Board constituted by Ministry of Ayush. Because Ministry of Ayush has constituted 2 committees, one is Task Force and Data Safety Monitoring Board. Before you are going for publication, these 2 committee has to approve this data so that we can go ahead with the publication. Another study we have done only in the Delhi. This is the first study in homeopathy in COVID. We have started as early as in 5th May, 4th May, and we completed long back in July. And data has been analyzed, manuscript has been drafted, and has been submitted to the ministry for permission to publish. Overall, these results are encouraging. I think DG, Director General, has shared in one of the seminar conference of some of the results that they are encouraging and showing good results with arsenic as a prophylactic. This is asymptomatic patients, those who are infected but do not have any symptom. This has been studied at Government Homeopathy Medical College, Bhopal, with 200 samples. The sample was low in comparison to drugs, but arsenic also one of the drug, Camphora bryonia, and this has been manuscript drafted, and also permission being sought from Ministry of Ayush to publish. And this is a treatment trial, one of the first trial of in collaboration with CCRH. Dr. Rajan Sankaran, he got permission from Ruby Hall Clinic, Pune. So we have provided technical support, provided protocol, etc. And it has been completed. And now we are analyzing this data. This recruited is wrong. It is earlier data. 300 recruitment has been done. And overall, we are analyzing this data. Another trial at FH Medical College, you may have seen Dr. I'm forgetting them. But it was could not be taken further because no patients were available after 49 cases. It was dropped. This study has been taken up at Chirayu Hospital, Bhopal. We completed, we have recruited 300, we have analyzed this data, we have submitted the manuscript to the Ministry of Ayush for permission to publish. Here we have seen some of the good results, early recoveries and early resolution of fevers. And another thing, we have taken up some pan-India survey of 5,000 patients, COVID positive patients, those who recovered from COVID, to see whether they have used any Ayush drugs or not. If they have used Ayush drugs, whether the Ayush drug, those who are not used Ayush drugs, whether they have a severe disease, and those who have used Ayush drug, there is a comparison with respect to their severity and hospital medication, or many aspects we want to see how the Ayush usage of Ayush intervention or prophylactic has affected their disease prognosis during the infection. This has been not ongoing, it has been completed. The data cleaning, etc. is going on. So now I want to tell that some of the study we have taken during this period, like we have started in January, we are continuing till date. where two drugs, one is influenza, one is arsenicalum. We have started influenza in the January for influenza-like illness, and arsenic in the month of March after the declaration of the prophylactic for COVID. Because this study become very important in this season, because most often you see the COVID itself is like a ILI. It starts with your fever, cough, some of the features of respiratory tract infection. So that's what we thought it should continue, so that we can get we may not get a claim that it is COVID, but at least overall the burden of this type of symptom, if it decreases, so it indirectly says also indirectly leads to that COVID has been decreased. So because this become very important study because of this COVID ongoing COVID. We have seen this data between September to, because I am comparing this to earlier part I have not taken, 15th September to December. You have seen during this period, Delhi has the peak, most highest peak has been reached between this time. Because of, we have festival season and all these things, it has reached peak in October. But you see, those who have received homeopathy, this is it is going on only every week. There is 1%, they are not reaching. Here it is more than 1%. These are in the same area, Mayapuri, Jakhira and Piragadi. And we are seeing 1%, more than 1% population being infected here. It started from, this data is from 15 September to 1st December. We have further data. And again, in arsenic group, similarly 15th to 15th November, you can see those are control group, they have 1%. Here in arsenic, it is only 0.2%. They are not reaching even 0.5%. This data we have taken for arsenic from March to November 20, because for March there is no control group for arsenic. You can see overall they start with whatever period you take from peak, it is not more than 0.21%, something like that. This is the area which are most vulnerable. You may have seen the report of seroprevalence. It has given that the urban slums are at the highest risk of contaminating disease. And these are data from these urban slums where the population density is very high. There is no possibility of to maintain a social distancing there, and there is poor health behavior. So all the risk factors are with them, and poor nutritional status. So all together culminating, so there should be more cases, but it has not happened with these groups. Based on all these things, this arsenic has been given different phases and indicated medicine for mild and moderate to severe cases. And this is the activity, some of it during COVID time, it has been taken by our doctors, study staff. When nobody was going outside, our staff, they have visited, you can see door to door, we have visited door to door and provided medicine to them and collected data over telephony. And this is also same thing, one of the containment. All these are from containment
Sorry
areas.
to interrupt, Dr. Naik sir. How much time you need? Because Driani sir has to comment, and sir, okay.
Another 10 minutes.
Fine, sir. Fine.
And some of the issues are there with homeopathic, that what the next part, what we need to do in future, because two ways of prevention, genus epidemicus and nojodes. We know it is not so easy to reach to a genus epidemicus, and there may be a variation from area to area. We have seen, and different types, different time there are difference in opinion of different states also, and by state government also. By their government doctors, they define genus epidemic differently. And however, to have these things has to be sorted out, how to collect data, how to standardize this procedure, how to reach to a most probable drugs. These are the things we need to work further and generate data to establish their validity. And nojodes also similarly, we need to establish safety of nojodes, because I know some of the nojodes we have started with during this period since last 4 or 5 years on dengue, malaria, kalajar, Recently, there are some of the drugs, major development, COVID also going on. But the safety is a major part. We have seen in animal model study, homeopathy dosage has a safety issue. And we need to standardize the source of medicine. Sometimes we tell earlier drugs, you will go to drugs like bacillinum, they differ in different sources. And some of the nojod, there is a problem like in case of malaria officinalis, the source is very difficult to reproduce now. So because once you claim a data, there will be next question is on the medicine. If you could not reproduce medicine, so there is a problem with uh, its quality control and safety. And first of all, there will be a question on its obscurity of its origin. So we need to have reproducible drug reproducibility. We can make it with time, and in vitro study, in vivo models should be undertaken to standardize all these things. Safety, toxicity, because always there is a question by other side, because we should always ready that whatever question they will pose, we should have data. That's why we have taken the safety study of Rotala aridus. We are taking safety study of all the nojodes on preclinical model with the All India Institute of Medical Sciences and with Punjab University. And we need to see the stability of product, whether we are storing. Sometimes it is questionable that after 5 years whether it is effective, not effective. Stability has to be established. And before entering into human, we need to see there are many ways of making a medicine of nojod from a patient source, from the culture, by killing. Also different type of killing is there, the heat and cold killing, by putting chemical killing, many methods. So what is the best method we are preparing, so that a comparative study of animal can give a better idea. We need to have this type of field studies, because we have taken some of this, tried to take up some of the studies on field study, efficacy studies, and we need to take treatment studies on efficacy, effectiveness. Like we have taken, though this COVID has given a good opportunity to take, and we have also taken up some of the study, and the results are some of the encouraging, and it will be in time, it will published. And we need to have a long time series studies in public. Like we have taken this area, we have taken since 2015. It is completing 4 years. We are targeting at least 5-6 years. We can consistently, we can show after giving medicine this is happening. So automatically that itself become a evidence that it never happens that a medicine which is not effective, it can decrease the incidence every year. There may be a chance in 1 year it may happen, not in every year. So that type of long-term study, what is happening in case of vaccine development, in case of modern medicine, that in case of public health measures, like in public health, like hand washing, they do it for years together to see what is the impact of these things are coming. So we have to adopt that. We cannot go simply by telling that my medicine is effective, within 4 months it is there. So we have to do a repeated and methodological studies. So these are some of the developments of nojodes are still undergoing at homeopathy or CCRH, and some have been developed, some have also filed as a patent, and they have a very good result also. Malaria, we have very good result. Nanocurcumin for malaria, this has been developed. It's a very good result. It is next level of studies going on. Epidemic cell to keeping all these things. This after the recommendation of scientific advisory board, epidemic cell has been established, and it to develop a protocol for epidemic studies, to undertake research projects, preventive and curative in various epidemics, and also those who are disease which is possible. Like we have now ILI data, we can next time whenever this influenza outbreak comes, we will, nobody can stop us that too. Now this cannot be given. Similar type of data will be generated for other disease. Like we are trying to have more disease study more disease like malaria and diarrheal disease, and influenza will continue, because we don't know whenever there will be a further influenza outbreak. We have planned for to undertake HIV at JSPS. We have signed a memorandum of understanding with the Chandigarh Administration for Tuberculosis. So already these things has been taken up, around 30 studies. So this is only for, because I have kept something for our part of our practitioner where they can take, but we can keep something like that, because always whenever there is data, I have seen there are many presentations. They need to have a scientific methodological part where they need to have a case study, because when you have a laboratory data, it is okay. When we have a data on a clinical diagnosis, we have to follow a standard definition. If you don't follow a standard definition of any organization like WHO, like NCDC, like now people will come up with some of the data with of COVID. If you cannot at least have a confirmed diagnosis of laboratory diagnosis, at least we can have a case definition of NCDC, a National Communicable Disease Control. So that is a government agency. Whenever they tell ki this is the definition for this disease, so then it becomes a standardized definition and this. And always you should know there are two types of effect. Always you tell those who have taken homeopathy medicine, they have effect. We should remember a person in a family, if 2% have taken medicine, they have a direct effect. Other two are indirectly also protected. So prophylactic medicine always has a two type of effect, direct and indirect effect. And it is not always that we always see disease is there or not there. The outcome can be many things. It can be prevention of infection, it can be prevalence of infection, or it is severity. Sometimes we have given homeopathy medicine, but they have not developed a severe disease. They have disease, but they don't need a hospitalization, or intensity of infection has been decreased. So many ways of looking into this data of your clinic also, and because this disease has not been given as a allowed to treat, but there are many opportunities of treating dengue, influenza-like illness, all these things that can be a individual practitioner can do that. They can contribute this data because IIPH has a group, and they can have this type of databases, and they can each individual doctor, those who are sitting in that area, like in Kerala, this season will start. Every clinic will have this type of data. It is not always that dengue should be diagnosed, but dengue can be a suspected dengue. There can be probable dengue cases as per definitions of various health agencies. So that can be done also. And each individual doctor can contribute, but they should keep in mind some of the data which has to satisfy during analysis to know the confounders and source of errors. So that if in a family they have a dengue case earlier and subsequently another person fall ill, but he is not tested, so that case become a probable case. So historical circumstance, that means epidemiological link has to be also taken during case taking. And any case which is happening, dengue case also within 200 meters also is probable case, because any mosquito, they travel around 200 meters. So a case in a vicinity of 200 meters having fever but not tested for dengue with a clinical feature of dengue can be taken as a case of probable dengue. So this type of data can be kept with self so that it can be analyzed and published. And the third thing I will tell that sometimes what happens, some people, our doctors are a part of, they have a very charitable sources like those who are old age home. They are the area where you can give medicine, because they have to be there. The population is very fixed. They can be given medicine. The outcome can be observed in terms of prophylactic. So that is a individual level can be done. But like bigger trials of going to the population, and that not possible for individual practitioner. And if somebody is thinking that I can think of a study, so even if it is a 50 cases or 100 cases, 200 cases, need to be registered, because anything to be published or thinking to have a future publication need to be mandatory registration at CTRI, because it will be after 2018, after the Clinical Trial Act, CTRI registration is a mandatory. And to take a consent, it is always at safe side. Otherwise, there may create a problem in publication and also for subsequent. That this we have discussed. And this is one of the journey we have journey from this 16 to 17, 18. We have started with these are some photograph from our data collection, and this our doctors are taking this sample collection for dengue studies. When they are not allowing to us to refusing to sample test, now they are looking for asking us to do a blood test for them, all these things, because then we need to develop a belief in them that we are for them, for their benefit. Because sometimes some people are coming to do a survey, take blood for some other reason. We have started with paper. Now we are entered to a software level that where we can do a rapid analysis. And concluding, I want to say vaccine has some of the limitations. I should not tell you vaccine should discourage vaccine. We should always encourage because science is a science which is more effective, which should be taken. But it is not so easy to vaccinate so huge population with short time. If a epidemic is of one, I have already discussed 2 months, you cannot give vaccinate everybody. If there is no stockpile, because we also don't know whether this epidemic is coming, you cannot stockpile also. So that is also to maintain a cold chain to coverage all the population. So it is not so easy. But the homeopathic, it is easy. You can give medicine so easily. We have covered this 30,000 within 2 to 3 days. So easy administration, easy transportation, storage, no need of table as cold chain maintenance. There is no side effect at individual level. They can take. You can give the medicine to the individuals. They can take the medicine. So low cost, accessible to the poorest to poor. And what I have seen that we need 10 rupees for a family of 5 members for a period of 4 months. So that is so cheap and easy to administration. Even if somebody take a overdose, there is no problem also. So there are many advantages to compare to that. But so there are more on infectious disease. There is one of the article which has been published in IJRH. Some people may go through. And I sincerely acknowledge our because this is happening very rapidly, because we know the epidemic season starts very quickly and it ends very quickly. We need a very expedite permission, because without this permission you cannot do a clinical trial. And Dr. Bikupta sir, he is very generous to give very anytime to contact and get his advice, all these things. Our ethical committee and our director generals to get a finance. So I sincerely acknowledge their contributions to have this type of activity. It is possible only because of all these things. Thank you all for your patient hearing. Any questions we can discuss?
Thank you, Dr. Naik, Dr. Devdatta Naik. It was really an elaborative, and I can see that you have rushed through your presentation, because I think the such a vast topic need more time. So
Yes, yes.
we can have another session, follow-up session for the same. So I would not come between you delegates and our senior Dr. J.D. Dryani, who is chairman of today's session. Sir, please unmute yourself and take the stage. I cannot say much about Dr. J.D. Dryani, sir. He is the senior most, I think he's the senior most person in homeopathic education and academics, who has contributed a lot where the homeopathic education stands today. So I think he needs no introduction. Sir, please kindly take the stage.
Thank you, Dr. Mukhtar Singh ji, Dr. Rao Saab, and Mr. Dr. Tanveer. But today, it will be the historical day in the webinars that our young Indian scientist, research scientist, Dr. Devdatta is here, and he has compressed all the content in scheduled time. He is very brilliant. He has given the overview of the epidemic and research, what is going on. There are a lot of the questions about the CCRH. What is doing CCRH? He has cleared all the doubts. Not only this, but explain everything from each corner everything. I think no question remains to ask from him. What is this and what is this not? He has lessened my burden because whatever I prepared with the one page, almost he covered all these things. Not only with this, what is the need of our for homeopathy? At one end, we say India is the father of homeopathy. Earlier, it used to be called Germany, Dr. Hahnemann. But what research is going on, that research is going on in India itself. I don't know why we people are running after the European countries. It is required that in European countries acceptance is necessary for our research work. Dr. Devdutt has given the answer for that. And during this, what is our achievement? He has explained in detail the achievement also. What is need of our and our achievement? Dr. Devdutt, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, today's caption, the topic was divided in 4 parts, 4 components. The first component was health, management of healthcare, public health, and then evidence and road ahead. Now, all these things he has explained in a beautifully. It will be unnecessary wastage of time to repeat the same thing from my side, but whatever I have prepared, that I am going to share with you, though it will be. Public health is the science and art of preventing disease and promoting health of the society. While public health management is the approach that deliver health services more efficiently and effectively, as well as bring to the community in general, as well as during epidemic and pandemic. Homeopathy is doing all or has these things, both the thing, preserver of health as well as health management. Homeopathy, since its origin, is working effectively for public health or mankind, including during major epidemics. It will be just a repetition that since as early as including epidemics, as early as belladonna was in scald fever was used by Dr. Hahnemann. Since after successfully several epidemics has been covered or dealt, like cholera, Spanish flu, plague, chickenpox, chikungunya, swine flu, Japanese encephalitis, dengue, and many others. Currently, in COVID-19, we are fighting hand in hand. In corona pandemic, we have made a significant contribution in delivering both curative and preventive. That is something different. That when patient is in an acute stage, he needs an life support system. We are lacking this. We are not able to handle. We are not able to manage. But in early stage, we can treat. But simultaneously, even after recovery, post-COVID trauma can be easily managed or with successfully managed. Globally, several agencies, including our Central Council for Research in Homeopathy, has undertaken various studies what the Dr. Devdatta Nayak has explained or highlighted to assess the efficacy of homeopathy in current outbreak. India is the only country where such type of research is conducted and results are encouraging. But the only thing that you know that our brothers, other system of medicine, they don't accept, they don't recognize, they don't encourage, or they don't have the place to say that homeopathy is going good for us. It is my sincere request to you that we should not run after them. European community is something different. European research is something different. Why we are running after them? But what we are lacking, we should improve ourselves. Our things, whatever Dr. Devdutt has explained, each and everything is systematically and scientifically. There is a term in scientific language. Our research is not in scientific language. I'm sorry. It is not correct. Everything is our in scientific language. Parameters, protocols, results, and the modern technology which we have adopted. But overall, still more we have to improve and to collect more data for showing encouraging results. Lastly, our documentation is very poor. Until unless we will not be able to prepare our documentation, who will recognize us? Whatever today I am. That's enough. What I have done, it is in written. The coming generation will know that things were done by him, by X, by Y, by Z, and etc. With this, I'm thankful to again IHP that given me an honor and given it is my privilege that I'm with you, and especially Dr. Rao, who is a good friend of mine, Dr. Tanveer, who is a young friend of mine, young friend, like a young scientist, and Dr. Mukhtar Singh is a good friend of mine. With this, I say thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dryani, sir. Your words are blessings for the upcoming homeopaths. So I congratulate Dr. Nayak that he has got blessings of such a senior homeopath. Rather, these people are living legends. of
And for your
homeopathy.
information,
Thank you, sir.
So,
whenever I am in trouble or ask anything for any writing, I generally call him, even in at late hours. Devdutt,
Sir,
tell me
so
this thing. Tell me this
Doc-
thing, what I have to do.
Dr. Nayak, till now we
Thank you,
have
sir.
got no question from the delegates. So, if any delegates have any query, they can just raise their hand so that we can just ask him, or otherwise we can move on to our next session because we are running short of time. So, if there is any query from any of your side, so by the time I will call Dr. Kaumudi. Are you there? So please switch on your video so that I can make you the presenter and we can start with the quiz part. Dr. Kaumudi.
పైకి వెళ్ళిపోవచ్చు అన్న అది ఇక్కడ టచింగ్ అని ఇస్తావా
Dr. Kaumudi, are you there?
ఇదే
So I have made you the presenter. You can share your screen. Let us start it now.
అయిపోయింది
So, hello, Dr. Kaumudi. Can you please respond so that I can announce the details of the program?
అలాగా ఇది ఇక్కడ బ్రష్ లాగా ఇక్కడ
సాయంకాలం అండి తాకాలి లేదు 13 ఆవిడని పెట్టించండి 13 14 వచ్చేస్తున్నారు
అన్న ఇదిగో లేదే
Dr. Kaumudi, I think
అది అది పుట్టిన చూడండి ఇప్పుడు మొక్క కత్తింగ్ ఇచ్చాం కదా కిందనే వదిలేదండి నీకు అందుద్దా స్టూల్ కావాలి
I think Dr. Kaumudi has logged out due to some technical issues, so she's joining within a minute. So we'll start the session. Kindly bear. So in the meantime, we can ask questions. So Dr. Kaumudi, you can share your screen. Yes, please share your screen. ਇੱਥੇ ਮੈਂ ਬੋਲੀ ਜਾਣਾ ਤੂੰ ਅੰਦਰ ਚਲੀ